Good morning, good morning, good morning, beautiful people. And how is it going on this beautiful Monday? The sun is shining, you guys. No rain. It seems to have been raining for a few days on and off now. So I hope you guys are doing well. Had a great weekend. I tell you, boy, I have slept this weekend away. I have slept, and I feel refreshed. I feel ready. And was thinking this morning that sometimes when you don't make the time to rest, and that God knows that He knows that He knows that He's going to use you and continue to use you, that He will set you down, as my grandmother used to say. If you don't sit down, God will set you down. He will make you rest. So, good morning, Brandon. How is it going?
Good morning, Mom. It's going great. How are you today? Oh,
I,
I like the new background.
I know you missed it. I'm gonna tweak it some more, you guys. I was playing last night. Because I kind of had a little trouble going back to sleep because I had slept so much. But I ended up going and got a little time to play on some things. So y'all gonna mess around and make me get good on this. What do you call this stuff? What I'm doing? I don't know.
The stuff you can't name, huh? No, that's great, Mama. Thank you so much. That looks beautiful.
Huh?
You're getting really good at it. I said you're getting really good at it. You really are. You really are. I was being cheeky, but you're really getting good at it. So I appreciate you. I'm sending you the link for
Well,
Insta right now.
I'll have to give credit. The initial part of this, that's fine, to KL. So he'll send me things, and then I will tweak them, and then y'all know I'll add some stuff and take away some stuff to make it what I want it to be, right?
Hmm.
So if you need logos, websites, book covers, anything that has to do with stuff like that, reach out to KL. He is a regular listener on the show and is very, very talented. He got to do some work for Trent, who also listens to the show. So y'all go over to conversations with Trent and Friends, and you'll see some of KL's work there as well. So good morning. Let's get this going. Let's get our Instagram people on. I see Kayla's out there. Kayla says she's not messing with you, Brandon. She's coming right on over to get
Good.
to the barbecue on her own. So let
She
me get
said
us
she went
set up.
because a couple of weeks ago she was like, I keep forgetting about the YouTube. And then after that day, she's been signing in on the YouTube live. So Kayla, shout out to you.
Shout out to you. And the Instagram is ready, Brandon, if you want to go ahead and do that. And I'll say good morning to our beautiful people. Kayla again says good morning. She was the first to get
Hey,
into the barbecue, I should say. And Big Mike, good morning, everyone. And Kayla says, finally, no rain. Haha, can take the little one swimming. Yeah, it's been really raining, but I can think we kind of needed it as well. Um, and I'm trying to be mindful in not complaining or wishing things were different. I'm just trying to really sit in whatever the day brings, right? Because I've noticed that that's a whole thing with us sometimes. When it's hot, we want it to be cold. When it's cold, we want it to be hot again. So I'm just trying to be. Matter of fact, Brandon, I sent y'all a book, Be Water.
oh
If
yeah,
you
by Miss Lee, Bruce Lee's Shannon Lee, I think is
Yeah,
her name.
right, right. So that's probably going to be one of my next reads.
Yeah, okay. I
Yeah.
follow her on Instagram. She's a very interesting person and does a lot of great content. They have a podcast too, that's really good. That I
Okay.
think you would enjoy about something similar as Be Water, going over
Hmm.
the philosophy
Hmm.
of the life
Hmm.
of Bruce Lee.
Okay.
One of my
All right.
favorite people for sure.
Cool beans. All right. Well, did I ask you how are you?
You did briefly when I first came on, but I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I got some good sleep last night. Uh, yeah, no complaints, man. Just happy to have another chance at this thing called life and taking another step on the journey toward my destination of success. So I'm feeling great. You feeling all right, Mama?
I am. I am.
Good, good. Well, I guess we can go ahead and get started for today and jump in. Thank you all for joining us on Instagram Live, Facebook Live, or YouTube Live. Whether you're on any of those platforms, please make sure that you do visit the YouTube Live to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. Meaning, like this video for me. Let the algorithm know that this is the type of content that you want to see. So go over to YouTube right now if you are on Instagram Live or Facebook Live and add End This Season podcast to your list of subscribed channels. We would appreciate it. If this is your first time, or if you've been here many times and you already know and you're used to this, but we are going through the book Daily Motivations for African American Success, written by Dennis Kimbro, published in 1992. Daily Motivations for African American Success will help you focus on the thoughts, attitudes, and deeds that will lead to the achievement of your true goals. So in 365 short and powerful motivations, one for each day of the year, Dennis Kimbro leads us to discover how to use the present moment and our own gifts to transcend labels, cultivate a positive attitude, and become wise enough to know when to say yes and when to say no. And also how to look inward for answers to life's challenges. So each motivation begins with words of wisdom from such distinguished and celebrated African Americans as Malcolm X, Marion Wright Elderman, Whoopi Goldberg, Charlene Hunter Galt, Bill Cosby, Carl Rowan, Mother Hale, Reverend Leon Sullivan, and hundreds of others. So this treasure trove of practical inspiration will give you fresh encouragement every day of the year, but what it teaches will last you a lifetime. The entire purpose of this is to develop our character. It says on the back here, a quote from Dennis Kimbro said, "If there's any power that can reverse the fortunes of race, it's character. And every thought which enters our mind, every word that we utter, every deed that we perform makes its impression on the innermost fiber of our being." And Mom, I think that's what you were speaking of just a little bit, in regards to not complaining at all about any weather, about anything that we cannot control, especially when it's something that comes from God, or something that comes as a byproduct of just living on this earth. I won't complain. I really like that perspective, right? Because if we didn't have the rain as much as we did, we wouldn't have the plants, and we wouldn't have the animals. We wouldn't have so many other things that we enjoy as a byproduct of rain. So thank you for putting that on our radar.
You're welcome, Brandon. Thank you.
Yeah,
You just reminded me of the song, I Won't Complain. I've had some good
yeah,
days.
that's what I was
I've had
thinking
some
about.
hills to climb. I've had some weary days and some sleepless nights.
Man,
But when I look around, you guys, what do you say? And I think things over. Mm, all my
mm,
good days outweigh my bad. So who am I to complain?
mm.
Whew,
Yep. So thank you for that moment, and for the inspiration. We appreciate it. Y'all ready to jump into it?
let's do it.
All right. So today's passage on July the 29th at 7:09. I like this. July 29th is Let's Do Lunch. I need to say this to you, Mom. Let's do lunch.
We just did lunch, but I'm open to doing it again.
That's what I'm saying. There we go. Let's Do Lunch is the title. And Flip Wilson, the comedian and entertainer, said, "What you see is what you get." We've all heard that before. What you see is what you get. And again, the title, Let's Do Lunch. Do you believe in fate? Do you believe that you are a pawn in the game of life, doomed to failure no matter what you do? Are you dissatisfied with the conditions in your life, but convinced there's nothing that you can do about them? This type of thinking reminds me of the story of two construction workers, Tom and Dave, who ate lunch together every day. Each day, at the stroke of 12, they sat in shade of the building project and opened their lunchboxes. On Monday, Tom carefully unwrapped his sandwich. Picking up the top layer of bread, he peeked inside. "Peanut butter again?" he said with a look of disgust. Dave continued to eat without uttering a word. On Tuesday, Tom again examined his sandwich and with even greater annoyance exclaimed, "No, not peanut butter again." Again, Dave refrained from comment as Tom went ahead and ate his lunch. On Wednesday, when the same routine was repeated, Dave could no longer keep silent. If you don't like peanut butter, why don't you tell your wife? He said. Now listen, replied Tom. You leave my wife out of this. I make my own sandwiches. I wonder how many of us are putting up with something that annoys us, thinking that we have no control over it. What kind of quote unquote sandwiches are you making for yourself? And the affirmation at the end of the passage, this was a short one today, that we read 3 times, one time for you, one time for me, and one time for the person that you are inviting to the podcast tomorrow, that you're going to send this link. The affirmation is, you are not at the mercy of fate. You can control your life. You are not at the mercy of fate. You can control your life. And last time, again, you are not at the mercy of fate. You can control your life. So, Mom, let's do lunch. What you
Let's
got
do
for me?
it. Let's do it. Let's do it. This fate thing, I'm trying to bring it back, trying to wheel it back in, because, however, I do believe there's some parts of our life, there's things that in our life that, okay, I'll tell you what, let's define fate: the development of events beyond a person's control, regarded as determined by a supernatural power. Fate decided his course for him is an example. Now, to a degree, um, that is somewhat true, right? There are things that happen to us, and I'll say for us, right? So it depends on how you look at it. I do feel that we have the control to decide whether we go through something or grow through, let me say it, go through fate or grow through fate. Right? Brandon, you said every time I'm blessed, I expect a test. I was thinking about that yesterday, how um when so true, but when you are blessed and you expect the test, there's this is a test that you have the answer to. And I'll say the answer, not the answers. And most tests are not one question tests. So is life. But the answer is your relationship with God, your relationship with yourself, how you see the world, how you see yourself, how you see people, how you interpret situations and circumstances. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and I won't say their name, and they called just to say hello, just to check on me, which was just a just a breath of fresh air, right? Because how often do people just call? So I just call to see how you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
How are you? And I asked a question that could have led the conversation in a whole nother direction that would not have been beneficial to either one of us. And the person redirected the question. Very short, sweet, honest answer that did not need any more thought behind it. And this person said, he said, I'm just going to leave that right there. That's not what I called for. It is what it is, basically. Let's make this a light conversation. How are you doing? And it was so refreshing because this is something new. And I said, wow, proud of you. Almost said the word. Wow, I'm proud of you. Right. So there are times when you need to control the uncontrollable. And there's and all that means is I like the rain. What can you do? What are your wishes? What are you wishing for? Right? God is doing his work. right? Remember as a young, well, I don't know if you guys remember, but when it would thunder and rain and all of that, we had to sit down. We were told God is doing his work. Sit down and be quiet.
I remember being raised like that too. You know,
Sit down and be quiet. There were so many instances where God was put before us, right? Was magnified, was we heard the name, right? Whether we wanted to or not, you know? So while I believe there's to some degree about the fate, and some degree I don't, meaning that there are things that happen to us that happens for us that we can choose to see it as it is happening for me. And that's just faith. That's just faith in God. That's just, wow, God, while I may not understand, I trust you. God, while I may not understand, right? God, I trust you. And that takes that takes a lot. Let me just say that. That takes, you better be connected. Don't plug the lamp in if there's no light bulb in it. Nothing's gonna happen. Although it's plugged in, there's no light bulb there, right? So you can't just be plugged in. I was thinking about, and I'm gonna turn it over to you, Brandon. I was thinking about, I mentioned to you guys that I had a young man say I need a spiritual father, and how it bothered me that there was no man that I could off the top of my head think about that had the spiritual in front of the man, if that makes sense. Like, I know a man, I know some men, but when you put a spiritual father, I know some fathers, right? A spiritual father. And truth be told, you guys, I really feel like a lot of things that happened last week brought me to the point where I had to just sleep my life away this weekend. I think I overloaded myself emotionally, internally, and that God had to shut me down because I had more things happen that were out of my control, but still the same. It truly bothered me. It deeply wounded me. It reopened wounds, right? Of disappointment, of brokenness, right? Because I too needed a spiritual father. And this is nothing to do with mothers, but men, there's something so great about you, although, and I think this is so hilarious of God. Like, we house the children, babies, we birth them. God uses our bodies to do, some women to do that, right? But there's something, and there's also something about the mothers and the women, but there's something about fathers, about a father, and especially a spiritual father. And I'm going to tell some of you spiritual fathers and men, you ought to be having lunch with your children, with your grandchildren, with your nephews, nieces. You ought to be calling them and saying, let's do lunch. I was scheduling an appointment for this young lady to have us over to look at her windows. By the way, if you guys need that, free service. You can get them out there for you. Give you a price good for 1 full year. Let me just say that, right? Some of the best windows ever. We have them, right, Brandon?
mm-hmm.
So this, as I'm setting the appointment for her, and this is a lady that she was in line, and I looked over and I could just feel her spirit. It was just something about her, right? So she stops and allows me to tell her about what we do and why we were there. And during the setting of the appointment, her phone rang and she said, "This is my uncle. I've missed his call several times. Let me get this." She got it, talked to him, and she said he was just calling to check on me. Imagine the power in that. Uncle calling to check on his niece, his sister's child, right? So, who can you call today and say, hey, let's do lunch? And can you say it's on me? And it doesn't have to be a $30 meal. It could be Starbucks. Oh, it's $30. You better go somewhere else. Let's see. It could be anywhere. It could be a park with sandwiches, right? So this is more than about, and there's so much more into this where the guy says, I make my own sandwiches. The story should have went on from there. What do you mean, dude? You were complaining about what you're making? No, he's saving face because he now doesn't want to say, now he got to bring his wife in it. That's a whole nother story. She should know I don't want peanut butter every day and da 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 da. It's a whole nother story. So he's saving face. So I'll stop there, Brandon. Over to you.
Well, thank you, Mom. I appreciate that. I think the big thing that we're looking at here is predetermination versus free will. There's something called fatalism. Have you ever heard of that? Fatalism.
No. Mm-mm.
Or determinism. Determinism is kind of the philosophical academic, like it's the academic way of looking at fate, right? It's called determinism, and fatalism is just that we have no control over our own actions.
Say that word again.
Fatalism.
Fatalism. Okay.
Fatalism. And then academically, that same kind of thing is determinism, like how much is already predetermined, right? Okay. So this is something that's challenged theologians for centuries, right? Or for thousands of years, really. And we have on one hand this divine providence, right? And then we also have this free will. So on one hand, it's like, if everything's predetermined, right, then why perform good deeds? Right? Why even go out and do good? Right? Or try to be morally upright. If everything, or try it all in your ambitions or whatever, if everything is predetermined. And then on the opposite hand, if God has no, let's say let's use the because in order for things to be predetermined, there has to be a higher intellect, right? And so if God has no control over us, we were just created and we do whatever we want, and there's no higher determination, there's no higher predestination, then what's the reason for going to God? Right? What's the reason for praying to God if there's nothing that comes out as a product of his decree? And so this important issue in this controversy is usually creates schisms inside of religions, philosophers, where they take either position as an extreme, right? They either say, God just created us and we don't, and he leaves us alone, he's disinterested in us, or that everything is predetermined and it doesn't matter what you do. And neither one of those extremes is true. What we're doing, and even that assessment, is taking a human look using the parameters of our own consciousness and the limitations of that consciousness and the limitations of what we can see and the limitations of what we can even understand, and imposing those on God's ability. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we're taking our own limitations and imposing those on God's ability, saying that it has to be an extreme one or extreme other. Like those two are mutually exclusive, and they're not. Meaning, if one exists, the other cannot, and if the other exists, then the former can't. And that's just not true. So, in my faith, we believe in something called qadr, or the decree of God, but we also believe in free will. And so it's a it's an ever-changing thing. So there is the way I see it, and I'll just explain this to you all, that there is predetermination, but there's also free will. Now, how does that exist? It's an ever-changing decree of God, but the end, God already knows. So as you make the decisions that you make, God already knows every single path that you can take, right? And all of those paths that you can take, his revelations in my faith tradition, the Quran, for example, his revelation of the Quran or of the Torah in its original form, or the Gospels in its original form, which we believe has been changed. Those revelations encompassed all of those possibilities. But the decree can change from the supplication to God, from you praying to God, from your deeds, from your actions. All of the all of the possibilities and consequences and responses to your actions, all those possibilities and potentialities are known by God, right? So I want to read a couple. Verses that are interesting. It says, "Verily, Allah Almighty has created His creation in darkness, and He cast over them His light. Whoever is touched by that light is guided, and whoever misses it is astray. Thus, I say the pens have been dried upon the knowledge of Allah." Meaning, like, the ink from the pens has it's already dried. So God already knows, it's already been written, there's already decree. And it says that it is He who has control over the heavens and the earth and has no offspring. No one shares control with Him, and who created all things and made them to an exact measure. So meaning God already knows the measure to which things will happen, right? But we also have a free will in order to change certain, I won't say outcomes, but things that happen to us, like what the responses or what we get back from it, the justice that comes from it. So basically, there is a decree of karma that comes inside of our faith, right? So if you do something bad, the wages of sin, you hear in Christianity, is what? The wages of sin is death. You hear if you go out and you steal something, there's a spiritual implication that happens. There's something that happens in the unseen world as far as the nur, or the light that's upon you when you commit sins, that creates a darkness over you, right? We believe that there are angels taking notes of everything that you do, whether it be bad or good, right? There's one angel that takes note of everything bad that you do. And there's another angel that takes note of everything good that you do. Everything good that you do gets written down instantly, right? And it counts at a higher measure. Everything that you do that's bad, the angel actually waits. Some say 4 hours, some say 8 hours, according to the scholars, if I'm not mistaken. And the angel will wait for you to say astaghfirullah, or God forgive me, if you can realize that you've committed this sin. So, and those have implications, right? So there isn't just a one set out, this is how things are, but overall, in the reality of God that exists outside of time, outside of space, outside of the realities that we can even perceive, God can see and understands and knows all of these possibilities. Again, the pens have dried up on the knowledge of God. So a lot of times we're looking at it like there's nothing that I can do. God has already predetermined this, and that's not true. And then on the other end, that some of us say, God don't care about what's going on with me. He's too big, too great. He created the whole universe. So what's the point of even praying to God? And both are extremes that aren't true. So it's part of the mystery of God. It's part of the veil of God, of which we cannot see. Like you say, okay, can you imagine what God looks like? We can't do it. God showed just a little bit of himself to the mountain, and the mountain fell. Showed just a portion of his veil to Moses, and he fainted, almost died. Right? So there are pieces of our Creator that we cannot comprehend. And part of that mystery will be unveiled to us in the end, right? Part of those unanswered questions are unveiled to us. So our charge as humans is to control what we can. You guys have heard me say on here, tie your camel and then trust in God, right? Meaning if you're in the desert and it's time for you to pray and it's time for you to worship, and that time, in our faith tradition, at certain times we actually worship at certain times, not just pray, we worship at certain times. Don't just hop off of your camel in the middle of the desert and prostrate yourself. Your camel might continue walking. God did not make you without intellect. The reason for this intellect is so that you can make decisions, so that inside of the test of life, you are you can test it, so that you have the ability to choose one way or another. What would be the point of intellect if everything is predetermined? So just the fact that you can question predetermination, just the fact that you can question fate, just the fact that you can make a choice based on certain outcomes shows you that neither extreme is in complete what do you call it? Neither is mutually exclusive. But to the degree of which you can change things, you have that responsibility. To the degree that you can supplicate to God, about changing your outcomes, to the degree that you can change your own ways internally and externally, your actions, your deeds, your thoughts, your working on your inclinations, your impulses, and things like that. To the degree that you can change them, that's your responsibility. And outside of that, if you can't control them, then let your intention be that you tried your best. But don't become defeatist. Don't become fatalist, as the word I said earlier, fatalism, because fatalism means death in a sense. The word fatal means it's an end. It's a determined end. There's nothing that can come after that, right? And that is just not true. Nor does it make sense based on the revelations that have been given to mankind, the guidances that have been given to mankind, and the prophets that have come to give us those exemplary traditions that we now like aspire to today. So, to the degree that it makes sense, this man who's complaining about his peanut butter sandwiches every day, but he's the one making them, right? God may have predetermined that he has the ability to buy a different type of sandwich, to buy the bread that he needs. God may have predetermined that he has the ability to buy the peanut butter that he needs. He might have predetermined that he has life today to even make the peanut butter sandwich. But you better believe it is that man's choice to grab that peanut butter and spread it across that bread every single morning. And it is also that man's choice to complain about what his own hands have brought him, right? So I hope that I made that clear, that to the degree that you can change your outcome, that is what you're responsible for. Nothing more and nothing less. All you should do is your best. Okay? Now,
So
if sandwiches is your best, don't complain, man.
I would have liked to seen what happened on the fourth day. Was it the fourth? Yeah. What kind of sandwich did he bring, or did they even have lunch together the next day? Keep my wife out of this. I make my own sandwiches.
Sound like he got bumped on the head a couple of times. He ain't wearing a hard hat.
Yes, yes. And do you believe in fate? It says, do you believe that you are a pawn in the game of life, doomed to failures no matter what you do? In fatalism, the definition, the belief that all events are predetermined and therefore inevitable. And when we think something is inevitable, what do we do? What do we do? Answer that for yourself. What do you do? And it also made me, as we work to close, Brandon, think about the people who were, I'll say tested. I'll use this for the sake of the show. And I mentioned earlier that you said in a previous show that when you feel blessed, you expect a test. And my saying that it is a test that you have the answer to, not answers. And that is your relationship with God, right? That is the answer. and I thought about Job, right? And I'm reminded that it somewhere I heard or learned that Job was tested to build humility, I think it was, or something in him. I can't remember the exact word that was used, but I'm saying this to say when we are given tests, it is to measure our growth, what we know, what we understand, you know. And I remember the day when teachers would test you and then we would review our test. They'd give them back to us. And then we'd have a review so that everyone gets to hear the others' answers to those questions, and we get to understand the ones that we missed, right? And understand better the ones that we got right. And so to go for our very first thing to know here is that, like you said, Brandon, when you're blessed, you're going to be tested in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So we first must have to understand that, because being tested, as Job was and many others in the Bible, they didn't see it as a glorious thing. But if you are running after God's heart, if you are running after the goodness of God to change your life, you better be ready for some pop quizzes in life, because life is going to pop on you even the more.
Some
And
try.
that's when you just say, God, well, I don't understand. God, I trust you, and I'm going to keep on knocking. I'm going to keep on seeking, because you say, seek ye first the kingdom of God, knock, and the door shall be answered, right? So you just have to hold on to what you know, right? You have to hold on to what you know. And what do you know?
Mm.
Take yourself out to lunch and answer that question for yourself. So, Brandon, I'll stop there. Or otherwise, we will be really, really long here. We got some comments. Let me get those out. How about Instagram? Do we have anything on Instagram?
No, we had a couple people jumping in, but they were just watching. So a lot of people watching. One, two, three,
Okay.
four, seven, like 8 people, 7, 8 people.
Okay. So, Miss Brenda, we didn't get to say good morning to you. She says, good, great, everything. Let me make sure I say that right. Great, everything, everyone. Auntie Richetta says, good morning, family. Good morning, butterfly, family, nephews, and everyone. Heart, 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 heart. We didn't get a kiss today. Auntie Richetta, where's my kiss? Phew. Right. I put out there, subscribe to In This Season podcast. If you have not did that, please do so. KL, well, he's today, you guys, by Nelda Brown. I don't know if you were here earlier, KL. I was sending you some kudos out. I don't know if you saw the intro that I worked from some stuff that you sent me. I kind of tweaked it, so you have to go back and listen to the beginning of the show. And come on, is KL going forward? How about that? Good morning, y'all, he says. KL says, if he is searching for a spiritual father, he or she has to be willing to listen. That is so true. And I think I said that on the first day that I mentioned the spiritual father, because you're so right. So often we ask for things and we're not really, I did say it because I read the direction of a spiritual father. Well, the definition of what a spiritual father was, and it was one that you should really honor, look up to, respect, and be willing to listen and do what is said. And that's why I said, while I know some men or a man, the word spiritual before that, mm, it's hard. It's hard. Kayla says, I love this. I always call my family to check. Not going to lie, I wish I could say, let's go have lunch. I have absolutely no family down here. They are 1,000 miles away, but we always call each other.
Mm.
Well, you do now, Kayla. You do have family here now. Gina Napoleon Brooks from the schoolhouse. Good morning. Good morning, y'all. We went to school together. Where is Scooter? Where is my Scooter? Gina Napoleon said, yes, Lord, we are responsible for ourselves. Amen to that. And Kayla says, all you can do is trust God. He will always guide you the right way. There you go, y'all.
Mm.
Nice way to end this show.
Yeah, I
There you
got
go.
so much to that I could add to this, but let's end this. Let's end this today. Let's end this
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. Yeah. Brandon, I do want to remind, because I haven't said, y'all, are you saving that money? Are you going to have something in 30 days, within these 30 days? Are you doing it?
We
Come
got
on.
we got a note on here how much it is every day too.
I put it out there. I'm
Okay.
I'm I'm into this season where people just got to do the work. Something you got to do something.
I'm saying, do we want to say the amount that's added every day on this show?
Right. But what I'm saying is I put it out there several times and I'll do it again because I feel like if you go look at it, right? If you get to see it, do it and create this habit. I don't want to just come here and say, do this, do this, do this, not even knowing if people are going back to do it. I'll post it out every other day or so.
Hmm.
But sometimes once I put it out there, it is your responsibility to wake up and be accountable.
Right. But
Because I don't want to start forcing people to do anything.
check this though. You saying it isn't forcing anyone to do it. So like, and there are people that might attend just on YouTube that might not see your Facebook posts or things like that. So I think that by saying it on YouTube, there might be people that don't have Facebook or don't follow you on Facebook or Instagram and things like that. They might not even know or be privy to what you're doing. So unless you're putting it on the actual YouTube page and in the link description below, there's some people that can't even be held accountable to that. You understand?
I agree. But if you can hear it and I give my number out and I said, if you want it, call me. I want people to take the initiative. Sometimes I think it's easy to sit back and not do anything, talk yourself out of doing something because you don't have all of what you think you need to do it. Easy out for you. If I put it out there, hey, call me if you want it, and you don't see it and you don't call me, guess what? That's on you, not me. And I'm just trying to help people be accountable. Take responsibility for what you want to do. Don't look at, oh, well, they didn't send me this. They didn't do that. No, if you want it, of giving you, and you haven't had a chance to get it, and you haven't called to say, hey, I didn't get it. I didn't see it. Do
Okay.
you really want it?
Well, let's make sure that we at least say that on every show, because I don't think we've said that on every show. But I think we should at least say like, hey, call me if you need it. You know, because some people tune in and it's their first time. Because I know we didn't do it yesterday or we didn't do it the day before.
Okay, fair
So
enough.
it needs to be
Saying
said.
it today. If you don't see it out there, if you're unable to see it, 901-431-3071. 901-431-3071. Email 901butterflies at gmail.com. 901butterflies at gmail.com. No
Sounds,
easy outs here anymore.
sounds good.
All right.
All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all. Mama going hard on y'all. She ain't gonna let
Because
y'all.
I go hard on myself.
Good. No, it's good. It's good. It's
I'm
good.
serious. Because if I don't, the next situation that you're in like this, you will take the back seat instead of asking for what you want. It's like this man asked on the third day, I'm getting sick of hearing this. If you don't like peanut butter, tell your wife. And he still, because if the food, I'm going to say food, because if you making sandwiches and complaining about them, you a fool.
Yeah.
So you know his wife really was making them, but he's trying to save his ego, his manism, right? No, there's no outs here. Because if I let you out, then I'm gonna have to come back and start letting myself out. No, I'm staying in this hot pot. All right,
Sounds
let's
good,
get
y'all. Well, today's title was "Let's Do Lunch." And our quote was, "What you see is what you get," by Flip Wilson, the comedian and entertainer. And our affirmation for the day is, you are not at the mercy of fate. This is what you're talking about right here, Mom. You are not at the mercy of fate. You can control your life. Again, you are not at the mercy of fate. You can control your life. So with that, y'all go ahead, take that with you, repeat that throughout the day. You see it written down at the bottom of your screen going across there. You are not at the mercy of fate. You can control your life. So take the wheel and drive to your destination. Okay. You are responsible to the degree for which your ability, that to the degree that you have the ability to change your situation with your hands, do it. If you can change it with your hands, your actions, your deeds, your thoughts, do it. It is your responsibility and no one else's. All right, y'all. Take care. This is Brandon and the butterfly herself on the End the Season podcast. We'll see you tomorrow. Make sure you like this video and every other video that you can on our YouTube channel on End This Season podcast. Like, subscribe, and share it with somebody that you love. Check up on somebody today. Say, let's do lunch. When you say let's do lunch, send them this actual video and let that be the first thing that y'all talk about in conversation, right? Let it be an icebreaker for you. All right, y'all. We love you. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.
Peace.